What's going on, Dolphins? It is your boy Dillon, and today is roster cutdown day. Training camp is now officially over, and so there's a lot of news to talk about. We've already kind of discussed a little bit. I am gonna go back a little bit to the beginning of the month, September 1st, and mention the transactions that were taken since then, since the beginning of the month. And then obviously update you on everything that has happened today and so on and so forth. But just to make sure that everything is covered and to kind of recap a little bit. So Alan Pupari is a Dolphins, beat writer, but he writes for Sports Illustrated now. And he has a tracker that's pretty good that I'm going to go through to give you these details. So let's get right into it. So on September 1st, there was some news, some developments. Obviously stuff we already talked about, so we're going to get through this part quick. A couple of hours after multiple reports indicated the Dolphins were cutting wide receivers Ricardo Lewis and Chester Rogers, team officially announced 4 roster cuts, but Rogers wasn't one of them. Along with releasing Lewis, the Dolphins officially waived defensive end Avery Moss, safety Jeremiah Dinson, and cornerback Dietrich Nichols. None of those moves are particularly shocking. Dinson and Nichols are 2 rookie free agents who arrived in mid-August after being discarded by other teams, while Moss was recently signed by the Dolphins after first being released in late July. But when it comes to at least Avery Moss, I mean, Jeremiah Dinson, whatever, yeah, he's like Alan Pupar mentioned, he's a rookie free agent, discarded from another team, but we do need help at the safety position, so there's that. Also, Avery Moss, I mean, he's been with us, and he hasn't been like a superstar, but he's been, somewhat productive, certainly more than what we've had the past, couple seasons, last year, whatever. And so that obviously is an area of need. So, that could be, important. It just depends on how the guys that they choose to keep around perform. The Dolphins cut 2 wide receivers Tuesday, putting into clear picture what the position might look like after the weekend. Newcomer Chester Rogers and Ricardo Lewis have both been released, so they were definitely officially released. Rogers was expected to make a strong push for a roster spot after he was signed as a free agent August 9th because of his NFL experience, something that's in short supply among Dolphins wide receivers. But Rogers, who played the past 4 seasons with the Colts, failed to make much of an impression, and the emergence of rookie Malcolm Perry as a potential slot receiver sealed his fate. So a lot of this stuff that I'm going through now is important later on because of some of the other moves that they made. Like, when you put everything together, a lot of this stuff, as usual, just doesn't really make any sense. But we'll get into the details as we go on. As for Lewis, this is the second time the Dolphins have let him go this summer. He was released July 25th before being re-signed August 8th. Lewis, who played at Miami Beach High, whatever. Let's see. Yeah, so that's basically it for that, because we're going to get to the updates here in a second. Let's see. Then it just updates to Friday the 4th, yesterday, and basically he just talks about the expectation of, Josh Rosen being cut, which he eventually was, so we already know about that, and that kind of is what it is. So let's go ahead and jump ahead to today. So this is everything that has happened today at 5 a.m. As of his reporting, as of 5 a.m. today, the Miami Dolphins did not announce any roster transactions, but were apparently very busy. They made the big news Friday night with multiple reports about Josh Rosen, obviously. And then the players that they released, according to Barry Jackson, that is, were running back Salvon Ahmed, who they just picked up recently. Wide receivers Matt Cole and Kirk Merrick. Not totally, surprising there. Kind of expected that to whittle down that room a little bit. Tight ends Chris Myarick and Nate Whiting. I don't really know anything about that guy. But Chris Myarick, I liked in his limited action. I liked what he showed, and we definitely could use some help overall, at least until proven otherwise, in that tight end room. So I personally would have liked to see him stick around, but it is what it is. Offensive lineman Shaq Calhoun. Okay, well, Shaq Calhoun let's remember what happened with Shaq Calhoun. First of all, he actually ended up being one of your best offensive linemen last year. So why he wouldn't at least make it on the roster as like a depth option is like, you know, surprising to me, especially considering the fact that he way outperformed the draft pick, the rookie draft pick, because Shaq Calhoun was undrafted, right? But the rookie draft pick that the Dolphins picked, Michael Dieter, he was complete trash. Shaq Calhoun played pretty good, actually. But let's remember what happened, right? 2 weeks into training camp last offseason, Brian Flores fired his offensive line coach because he wouldn't put Michael Dieter and Shaq Calhoun into the lineup. He fires him, puts the new guy in, who he ended up firing this offseason. Shocker, because this dude has no idea what the fuck he's doing, but whatever. So he puts the new guy in, who then puts the two rookies in, and then what happens? Michael Dieter was complete trash the entire season, but they made sure he stayed in the game. Shaq Calhoun actually proved to be one of your better offensive linemen, and they kept pulling him for absolutely no reason. He wasn't injured, so on and so forth. Danny Isidora, but unfortunately now he does end up on the list of, you know, players that they brought in who they decided not to keep around, even though I think that they should have, at least as a depth option, if nothing else. Because he's definitely better than some of the depth options that we, you know, do have, including Michael Dieter. But, you know, it just, again, adds to how bad they are with their evaluations, right? So, on the one hand, they decided not to keep him, so they don't think he's good enough. So they're, you know, they're saying something about their own evaluations. However, I think that it actually says more because he's better than Michael Dieter, but they decide to keep him. Now, I get it. He was a draft pick, etc., third round pick, whatever. But Shaq Calhoun was better than him. Like, I mean, obviously, I don't know exactly what happened in this training camp, but it doesn't make any goddamn sense. And so, like, you know, they just can't seem to, you know, from my perspective, pick any of the right guys. Right? All the guys that they keep around end up being like injury, you know, prone or getting hurt all the time or whatever. Or like they bring guys in and then they're like, you know, we decided not to, you know, that we don't like this. Like it's just so fucking confusing. Like there's no rhyme or rhythm, because then they also got rid of Danny Isidora and Keaton Sutherland, who were, you know, guys that they brought in to fix this offensive line. Danny Isidora, you know, was a veteran, whatever that was, like, and at least some of these guys you would think would have, you know, remained on the fucking roster. Shaq Calhoun probably but it all failed evaluations by them, at least by their own admittance. And there, like I've said before, there's almost no guys that you can identify that are expected, especially with the volatility of their decision making, to be around on this roster for very long. You know, for multiple years. Anyway, they got rid of Jonathan Hubbard as well. Defensive lineman Tyshun Render and Brandon Bryant, and defensive backs Nate Hawley, Nate Brooks, Ken Webster, and Breon Borders. Like Ken Webster he was a guy that was expected, and you know, Shaq Calhoun, another one, was a guy that performed at the top. Like if you would have rated the performance of all the players on the team, right? Like Shaq Calhoun and Ken Webster would have been probably in the top half, right? And guys that you would think would be carryovers and would probably be expected to be carryovers or whatever to this roster and to have some consistency. But now they're gone. Nate Brooks too. Breon Borders. Those moves would leave 59 players on the roster, meaning the Dolphins would have to waive or release or place on injured reserve 6 of them. The roster numbers by position heading into Saturday would be 2 quarterbacks, 6 running backs, 7 wide receivers, 3 tight ends, 9 offensive linemen, 9 defensive linemen, 9 linebackers, 11 defensive backs, and 3 specialists. Some notes here though. Malcolm Perry is listed as a running back, though he's really a wide receiver, but he's also a quarterback, right? He's done all of those things. Chandler Cox has spent a lot of practice time at tight end. Interesting, I guess. Durval Quiros Nito is listed as a defensive lineman, though he's really an offensive lineman. That's... The Dolphins might be making him an offensive lineman. First of all, I mean, I just don't trust their evaluations at all at this point. They literally have not proven to be good at it, period. But he was brought in. He was the player that was brought in from Brazil. I was going to say Spain and then Portugal, which I believe are both wrong. Brazil, I believe, is where he came from. And he's been on the practice squad, and we've had a roster exemption because he's a player from a foreign country, right? So it hasn't really cost us. Oh yeah, he's Brazilian import. Because it hasn't cost us anything in that regard, but he was brought over as a defensive lineman. Okay, so now they're switching him to offensive line. I mean, I guess it's like a last gasp, and they desperately need help on the offensive line. But I would have rather have kept Shaq Calhoun, to be honest. I mean, whatever, dude. Like I said, none of what they do makes sense to me. And the proof and the evidence and the product on the field and so on and so forth, everything seems to be, proving that to this point. But I don't know, whatever, dude. We'll see. I mean, we'll see how it plays out. We literally have 8 days until we play a game. So, of the rookie free agents the Dolphins signed after the 2020 draft, only defensive tackle Benito Jones and linebacker Kylan Johnson remain for now, before the Dolphins have to get to their roster down to 53 by the 4 p.m. deadline. Okay, so let's jump forward a little bit because the Dolphins actually did a trade as well. So let's see. So now, since the deadline has passed, right, at 1 p.m. Pacific, 4 p.m. Eastern. So now the Dolphins, pretty much everything is in. So let's start with the trade, because that's where Alan Pupar goes next. So the Dolphins have added another all-purpose back with the acquisition of rookie Lynn Bowden Jr. from the Las Vegas Raiders, according to NFL Network report Ian Rappaport. So we're going to get into the specific details in a second. But there are multiple reasons why this does not make any sense. And it ultimately is going to show, I think, how the Raiders totally win in both of the trades that we did with them. Because remember, we also traded Raekwon McMillan to them, who essentially was our entire run defense from last season. Overall, our run defense was garbage, but when it wasn't garbage, it was usually because either Raekwon McMillan did it by himself or he was at least involved. So they got rid of pretty much our entire run defense from last year. And so that's huge. That's going to be huge. But let's get into these details. So Ian Rappaport was the first to note this. The Raiders are trading running back returner and Lynn Bowden Jr. in a 6th rounder to the Dolphins in exchange for a 4th round pick, the same pick Miami just got from Vegas. The versatile Bowden was a 3rd rounder this year. Okay, so there is a lot to unpack. First of all, they get a running back and returner. So running back, though, theoretically, especially considering the fact that he's fresh, he doesn't know our systems yet at all. He's going to have to learn the playbook, etc., etc. So the odds of him moving up the depth chart are slim, at least at first, at the very beginning, because all the rest of the running backs have, all of training camp to have, been able to pour into the playbook, memorize it, etc., and practice the plays, etc., right? Whereas he hasn't. So he has a disadvantage there. But he goes into a running back room where we have Matt Breida, who we traded for, Jordan Howard, who we brought in the offseason, right? We still have technically Kalen Ballage, although I would assume he's probably going to end up getting cut, but so far I haven't seen that. So we'll see how that goes. But then they still have Myles Gaskin and Patrick Laird. So that room is full. So he's going to have a hard time moving up the depth chart anyway. But then you find out, well, okay, he's this really super versatile guy, just like Malcolm Perry, who they just spent a draft pick on. Why do you need another guy like that? Especially when his prime position is, a position that you have a lot of people ahead of him at. So if he just comes in to be a fucking returner or, a return specialist, then, I mean, like, it ends up, that's like barely any return for what they gave away, right? Like, it drastically lowers the value of bringing him in. Especially because then, we gave away a 4th round pick. Okay, they, gave us a 6th rounder as well, you know, but we gave away a 4th round pick, which obviously is far more valuable than a late round pick like 6th. And then especially if this player doesn't have an, you know, major impact on the team. And then, you know, and if he can't rise up the depth chart, etc. But then the 4th round pick that we gave them, okay, was the one that we just got from them in the trade with Raekwon McMillan. Like, okay, I mean, but additionally, Bowden was a 3rd round pick of the Raiders this year in 2020. He was their 3rd round pick this year. So clearly they were ready to not only give up on the guy already after training camp, but then they were also willing to give a late round pick to get rid of him, right? So, I mean, like, and with the highly questionable moves and evaluation skills of this organization, the Dolphins organization, my guess is that it's going to end up proving to be a net negative for the Dolphins. The trade reportedly involves the Dolphins sending a 4th round pick to the Raiders, and it's the same one the Dolphins acquired from them last weekend in the trade involving linebacker Raekwon McMillan. So, hold on. So, in essence, the Dolphins ended up acquiring Bowden and a 6th round pick from the Raiders for McMillan and a 5th round selection. So, just think of it like that. We get a running back who likely won't make it up the depth chart, who will potentially only be a returner or a specialist or on, you know, special teams for us, who was a 3rd round pick of this year, and the team who picked him already gave up on him, right? And we get a 6th round pick on top of that. But we gave away, the Raiders get pretty much our entire run defense from last year, one of our top linebackers for sure, a high draft pick that is okay, he's not great in fucking coverage, but you have other players for that, right? He doesn't have to be, but he was great in run defense, and we desperately need help there. So you get rid of him, and then you also give up a 5th round selection, which is better than a 6th round selection. I don't know if anybody knows that. But, like, what are you doing? But he continues on. Bowden, a rookie 3rd round pick from the University of Kentucky, has a similar skill set to that of Dolphins rookie 7th round pick, Malcolm Perry. So you just got a guy like this in the 7th round. Why then would you want to take somebody's 3rd round pick who they're apparently so willing to get rid of that they're also going to give you a late round pick for, who basically fits the same skill set, has almost no chance or little chance of rising up the depth chart in his primary position room? It doesn't make any fucking sense. It's the same thing because it's massively redundant, almost no, you know, a small likelihood of having, you know, a major contribution or impact. And the Dolphins gave away certainly far more than they're getting. Like, I mean, it's ridiculous. And will provide even more options for offensive coordinator Chan Gailey. We'll see about that, dude. I mean, but that's another thing though, is they say that, but I mean, with all the wide receivers, the running backs, especially with all these guys that are, you know, super versatile, the tight ends, there's only but so many balls to go around, especially if the offense is absolute fucking trash, which it likely will be, especially early on in the season at the very least. And so, like, it doesn't make any goddamn sense. Bowden started the final 8 games of his junior season at Kentucky at quarterback, and his versatility earned him the Paul Hornung Award as the nation's most outstanding all-purpose player, as well as first-team Associated Press All-American all-purpose recognition. Great. So he's better than fucking Malcolm Perry, but that makes Malcolm Perry fucking completely useless and redundant. Bowden rushed for 1,468 yards, 185 carries, 7.9 per, and 13 touchdowns, while also leading the Wildcats in receiving, 30 receptions, 348 yards, 11.6 average, 1 touchdown and 5 starts to begin the year, and contributing as a returner, 4 returns, 53 yards, 13.2 on punts, and per per punt, and 9 returns, 220 yards, 24.4 on kickoffs to finish in the top 5 nationally in all-purpose yards. Before the draft, NFL.com analyst Lance Zierlein compared him to longtime NFL receiver Randall Cobb, who also played at Kentucky. I mean, look, if they could get that level of performance out of him, then that could help swing the trade scenario. But, I mean, they got a lot to prove. Not just the kid, not just the player, but this organization improving that they know how to fucking evaluate guys and bring in the right players. And not just continue to make like all these massively redundant. It's like Noah Igbinoghene, because he was taken in the first round at the tail end of the first round, but he seems to be the exact same player as Byron Jones, who you just paid as one of the top 3 corners in the league, when you could have taken the top safety instead. It just doesn't make any fucking sense. And offered this scouting report. In a rare twist, Bowden is both versatile and a little bit limited. I mean, that's not good though. He might require a plan to maximize his value. While he's a slot receiver by position, creative play callers can use him as a zone read quarterback and as a gadget receiver for jet sweeps and a variety of short catch and run screens. I mean, but we're not going to be able to execute that shit. Watch, I'm telling you. He's not overly sudden or explosive, and some teams may want him to prove he can be more than a glorified running back. Oh my God, dude. He's instinctive, highly competitive, and makes big plays. But that's also against college level, competition. It's going to be way different. Can he translate this to the NFL? His development as a receiver was slow due to his move to quarterback in 2019, but his return talent and versatility gives him a chance to contribute immediately as he waits to become a starting slot. Oh, Jesus Christ, dude. I mean, all right, look, whatever. Like I said, bro, I've expressed my dismay from the beginning of this whole fucking ordeal, right? Since the time that since they fired Adam Gase and began this whole tanking thing and stripping the roster and like all the moves that they've made, I've been vehemently and passionately against it. I've been the only Dolphins YouTuber that I can tell, or, really anyone that covers the Dolphins that I can tell that has had this perspective. And up to this point, I've been overwhelmingly proven correct. There's still a lot to be proven on, one way or the other, correct or incorrect, and they still have an opportunity to turn things around. But, I mean, all the data, certainly points in a certain direction. So we'll see, man. And like I said, no matter what, this season 100% is all about hashtag prove it. Because, and look, if they prove me wrong, I'll be happy to admit it, and I hope that they prove me wrong. But I doubt it. But they gotta prove it. No matter what, facts are what fucking matters. And so at the end of the day, that's what we need to go on. And so we'll have to wait and see. But like I said, we're only about 8 days away from the season. So it is fast approaching. And we won't have we won't have to wait much longer before we find out. In fact, 5 days from now, we're going to get to watch the Kansas City Chiefs and the Houston Texans play their first game. So that'll give us a little bit of a taste. I will likely watch it. I don't know that I'm going to do a live stream. Maybe, we'll see. But it'll give us the first taste of, what the season's going to look like as a whole. They do expect to have 22% of their stadium filled. The Chiefs do. So we'll see how that is affected by the COVID situation, or how the COVID situation affects that, etc. That'll be something to monitor. And then also, with crowd noise, the NFL says that they don't want artificial crowd noise pumped in, and there could be ramifications for teams who do it. But then, there's going to be stadiums that are going to be empty, right? So there's going to, and not to mention, we're going to have to wait and see how the fucked up offseason affects all the teams. Is the play really super sloppy? And unfortunately, the expectation is that there's probably going to be a lot of injuries as well. And there already have been quite a few, and some pretty significant ones just in training camp. So anyway, again, a lot needs to play out. We're going to have to wait and see. I have a completely different perspective than pretty much everybody else, as per the usual. But as per the usual, I have absolutely no problem saying this for a couple reasons. One, because I'm fully capable and willing to admit when I'm wrong, but also because I often am correct. So I'm going to admit that as well. I'm going to say that as well, and I'm going to own that proudly. Just like I'll own my mistakes proudly, because I am a flawed person, and that's part of growing and evolving. So anyway, that's how I'll end it. I'm gonna get up out of here. I hope you guys appreciate my perspective. If you do, make sure you hit the subscribe button, make sure you hit the like button, make sure you hit the bell if you want to get the alerts. Share my channel and videos with your friends and family. Leave your questions, comments, and concerns down in the comments section. And of course, as always, follow me on Twitter at Dillon Tartaro. And with that, I am out. I'll see y'all soon. Fins up.